Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a super 3D sculpture on this Artist Loft 15 by 30 inch gallery wrap number 3 canvas. It's going to be a blast. Let's do it. Alrighty, so I got my canvas out, I got some window screen out. Okay, this is aluminum window screens, pretty cheap. I'm going to break out a stapler here and I'm going to show you how I go about wrapping this thing up, getting it ready for the plaster and gauze. Gonna flip it over, start on one edge. On the back, I'm double folding the edges so that the the screen is double thick where I staple it. Okay, so I'm gonna speed this up and you can just watch and see how I go about doing this. Alright, so this process is really fun, I think. It's more difficult than doing just an acrylic pour, but it's very rewarding. The results speak for themselves. It's time consuming, especially the sanding part of the plaster and priming and sanding and resanding. It takes a while. I spent well over a week doing this, like a couple hours per day. So it is time consuming, however the results speak for themselves. So sit back, hope you enjoy this. I want you guys to give this a whirl sometime. You could do it on a smaller scale to try it the first time, but I hope you like it. Alright, so the general process that I'm doing here, I picked up from a YouTube channel by 8lear Miko, and I hope I pronounced that right. That's why I'm typing it out here so you can see. But you can go to their channel and check it out. Now, I have added a few of my own techniques in here that you will be seeing, and I will point them out as we go, but I got the general idea from that channel. Alright, so here's the general shape that I'll be using for the sculpture. Now, what I'm going to do to give it some rigidity is I'm going to use this expanding foam and I'm going to inject it in the ridges, the raised areas of the sculpture to give it some rigidity. Now, that's something I came up with on my own. I just poked a little bigger hole in the screen and I'm going to inject some of this expanding foam. That way you're not fighting against it when you're trying to sand, having the thing give out from underneath you. And also it will protect it when it's finished from damage, from being bumped or whatever. It's not just suspended, it actually helps to attach it to the canvas also. And I'm going to be using some push pins. As this stuff expands, I want to keep the mesh down on the canvas in the low areas. So I'm going to be using some push pins to help me along with that. And I eventually used a little bit of thread and tied the window screen down in a couple spots that we're wanting to raise from the canvas. So at the end, the thing will be solid and will allow you to apply the plaster and gauze easier. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I got my canvas ready to apply the gauze and the plaster. I mixed up the plaster, which is actually just a joint compound, threw a little water in it, make it thinner, and I added some just school glue, household general glue, which is a binder and slows down the drying process so you get less cracking. So I have a bunch of pre-cut strips of gauze. Okay, I got them over in a pile on the right, and I'm dipping them into my plaster compound, spreading it out, adding more compound as we go. So you can watch me do this. I'll get back to you in a couple minutes. I also think it's important to point out that you want to get this as smooth and straight and even as possible in this element of the construction, because it's less sanding, less filling you're going to have to do. So get this as smooth and even as possible as you're doing this part. Later on you will be bummed out if you have to do a lot of sanding and filling with this plaster. You also got to be careful, because if you sand through and get into that gauze, it's kind of hard to repair. I ended up, when I was getting towards the end, I had just a couple bare spots with some canvas, and it's kind of frayed. You can't really just fill it with primer or something like that. I actually used like a super glue and put glue on these little teeny raised areas where I went into the gauze. Then I could sand it lightly and fill it with primer. So now I'm going to do the back side as well. I'm just putting strips all the way around. I want that to look decent. I went ahead and signed and stamped the back of this canvas so I don't have to do it after it's finished, because I don't want to be laying this thing down on the face any more than I have to. That's why that's done already. So this is what it looks like after it's pretty much dry, the first coat. So now I'm going to go back. Again, I have more joint compound mixed up with, here's the glue. It's just clear glue. Again, that's a binder, and it slows down the drying process so it won't crack. So I have like a curved spreader here, which works really good on this piece because it's a lot of curves in it. And I'm just going to spread this out and then let this dry, build this up. Depending on your sculpture, you know, you might have to do 2 or 3 coats. So now I already primed, I sanded and primed the canvas already. So I misted it with some black so I can see the low spots as I'm sanding. And this is what it looks like after it's all sanded down and ready to paint. Now I have this silver slash, it's got a little bit of gold metallic. I'm going to do a base coat of that. I'm going to start with the sides and the back. Doing this out in my garage, and I have a huge exhaust fan so that I don't get killed by the fumes. So I'm putting a good coat on it, and then I go back over with a mist coat to get rid of the streaks. You might have to go in both directions. Alright, so here we are back in the studio. That paint is all dry. Let it dry overnight actually. Now I'm going to take a Scotch-Brite pad, and this is a gold Scotch-Brite. These Scotch-Brites are made by 3M. You can get them at auto body supply places, paint houses, whatever. You probably ordered on Amazon. Now this gold is equivalent to like 1,000 grit sandpaper. All I'm doing is scuffing this. I'm not really trying to sand anything out or anything. I just want to scuff it so I can get some adhesion. Alright, so I'm going to spray this, mist it with some water. It just makes the Scotch-Brite work a little easier to get into the low spots. Alright, so I got it all wiped off. I wiped it down with water. Now I'm taking this concoction I made from urea, fertilizer, water, and dish soap. You mix this, you get the urea fertilizer, it's available everywhere at your garden center. It comes in a pellet form. And you mix it like half and half with water and add a bit of dish soap. Just makes it move easier. And I have a little stick here, twig thing, whatever you want to use, that I'll be utilizing in a minute. So I'm taking this concoction and I'm misting it all around the entire surface of this canvas. And as this dries, it will cause a crystal formation on the surface. Okay, so I'm putting on a nice liberal amount. You can actually pour it on if you want to. But I'm just going to mist it this time because I'm trying something different. Now I'm getting the excess material off. I don't want it to pool in the lowered recessed areas, otherwise it will mess up the crystal design. So I'm just going around. Now I'm taking my little stick here, it's a little piece of plastic, and I'm just poking it lightly, kind of randomly. And what that does is, as this dries, wherever you poke it will create a star-shaped formation in the crystals. So now, taking a blow dryer, kind of tried to speed it up a little bit, and I'm playing with this. Every one of these is an experiment to me too, so I'm videotaping with my camera so you can see the crystals forming. But unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think I pushed record on that phone. If you see, I'm just holding it. It's not recording. But you will see close-up. You can actually see it forming right now. If you look at it, you can see the crystals forming. So here we're going in for a close-up of just the crystals formed so you can see what it looks like before the next step. Now I learned this technique using this mixture from some folks from the Philippines, I believe, and it was not in English, so I just kind of like figured it out myself after seeing what they were able to do with this urea fertilizer. It's really awesome. So this is what it looks like, just dried over the silver base. Okay, so the next step is I have some black spray paint. It's just cheap black spray paint. I bought it on clearance, I think. And I'm going to do a mist coat, not cover it up, you know, just get a mist of black over this entire canvas, the sides and the top. It's got to be completely dry before you do this part. So I let my crystals dry completely, shake it up real good. I'm starting on the edges. I'm just misting it. Again, I just want a nice, even mist coat. I want some of this black to get down into the crystals, and then I'm going to sand it off and we'll leave a black crystal etching onto the top of this. Again, you want to make sure your paint is shaken up really well, because otherwise you will be getting splattering, which is what I'm trying to avoid. So you don't want splatters, because otherwise you'll have to sand them off. So here we go with doing a mist coat across the top. See, I'm a good foot away. I'm going to shoot it from both angles, make sure that I got it on the highs and low areas of the canvas. Black paint is going to sand off really easily. So what I have here is, it's a 3M 3000 grit foam disc. They come in 6-inch or 3-inch. I have a 3-inch here, and I'm just going to basically wipe the excess paint off the top, leaving the black into the lower etched areas from the crystal. So I'm using a little water. It sands off real easy. But you got to be careful not to sand too much, okay? So I actually end up doing this process twice to get maximum crystallization. You'll see here in a minute. Again, I wasn't really happy with how the etching was going. It was kind of uneven, so I'm coming back with more of the urea. I sprayed it again, and I've never done this before, so we're going to see what happens. But then I repoked it. I got out my blow dryer. I'm drying that. You can see it turning darker. So I have the urea crystal etching 2 layers. And I'm going to have to go back over with the little black spray paint again and sand it back down, and then we'll see what we have. Here we are sanding. I have a bigger pad there. I'm sanding a little bit with the water, then I'm wiping it off to see what I have, and I can tell if I need to go back in and do some spots. Alright, after you have it all sanded down, wiped down real good, I went ahead and added a clear coat. It's not a varnish, it's actually a polyurethane over the top. And this is a close-up of it. It's sitting on my kitchen counter. And the blue is some reflection from a window that I have nearby, the sky. But I want you guys to please hit that like button and subscribe if you like this process. Leave comments and questions. I'm happy to answer anything you got. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm trying to build this channel. I only got about 500 subscribers, so please share it with your friends. I'd really appreciate that. I also want to thank the Surf Zombies for providing the awesome background music. I think this thing is really cool. It looks awesome on my wall, which I will show you in a second. But it's got great definition, interesting pattern to it, and there you have it. That's the finished result. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Thanks a lot.